And while Pakistan is bracing for what may or may not happen in Azad Jammu and Kashmir today, Pakistan's mediation efforts between the United States and Iran continue, despite what looked like a potential fracture of the ceasefire. And it's literally a matter of opinion now whether the ceasefire is still in place or is it's tenuous or it's gone. But basically, what happened is that the stalemate has been continuing in the peace talks or the negotiations that are taking place between the United States and Iran via Pakistan. And what happened was that last week, when Israel started making noises about attacking Dahia, a suburb in South Lebanon that is predominantly Shia Muslim, Iran stated very clearly that that was a red line. Israel invaded South Lebanon. It has killed more than 3,000 people in Lebanon. It has flattened villages. It has told people to leave. It is creating its own arbitrary lines. It is ethnic cleansing at its height. And Iran has been very, very circumspect about not responding with any kind of military reaction apart from its continuing support of Hezbollah. Now, things, of course, became really complicated when the United States decided that they were going to hold peace talks between the Lebanese government and Israel. And in that, it was extremely disappointing to see the Lebanese president literally say that Hezbollah, that Iran is using Hezbollah as some kind of negotiating card, which couldn't be further from the truth. In all honesty, if Iran wanted to strike a deal with the United States and take Lebanon off the table, it would probably have been easier for Iran. But Iran has consistently maintained that they stand for the people of South Lebanon and South Beirut, who are predominantly Shia. This is something that perhaps people get a little confused about. The structure of government in Lebanon is actually a power sharing agreement. The Speaker of the Parliament is always going to be a Shia Muslim, and the President is always going to be a Maronite Christian, and the Prime Minister is going to be a Sunni Muslim. And that is an agreement that has been in place since the Taif Accords. The interesting situation on this now is that a lot of people say that Hezbollah has become a state within the state. But I'd like to point out here that Hezbollah is also a political party. It holds seats in the Lebanese parliament. It is not an external force. It is very Lebanese. The people who are in Hezbollah are Lebanese citizens. And to try to paint them as some kind of external force is, frankly, unfair. And the same thing goes for Hamas. Label them a terrorist and say, you are terrorist organizations, whereas they are actually political movements. And when Israel invaded Lebanon in these past couple of weeks, the Hezbollah has fought back. And to say that this is simply at Iran's instigation is possibly true, I don't know, but the fact of the matter is that nobody asked Israel to invade Lebanon. There was no reason for them to invade Lebanon. They just took advantage of the war between the United States and Iran, which Israel is participating with the United States, to extend their footprint into South Lebanon. And they've been doing this since 1982. So I totally reject the idea that Hezbollah is an external force. Hezbollah is defending South Lebanon from Israeli forces. That's, if you just look at the facts on the ground, that's what it is. You can call them, and you can put any label on them you want. You can call them Iran's proxy. You can call them terrorists. But the fact of the matter is that it's Israel that is the invasion force. The people of Lebanon, including the Hezbollah, resist and reject Israeli occupation. So I think that that's one thing we need to be very clear about. And it's complex. I mean, Lebanon is one of the most complex countries in terms of its structure. And I'll leave that conversation for another day because I would like to talk about how the civil war that started in 1975 and went on, and then when it ended and what happened. And I visited Lebanon, and it's an absolutely beautiful and fascinating country. And it breaks my heart to see what is being done to the people right now. I was in South Lebanon. I was in the Bekaa Valley, and it was so incredibly beautiful. And to think that that whole region is now again being ripped apart by Israeli tanks and Israeli paramilitary forces is just really, really sad. Now, coming back to the negotiations, which everyone has an opinion on it, is the ceasefire over? Are those peace negotiations ever going to be held? Well, I don't know, but I can certainly point you in a couple of directions. Now, President Trump, when Israel actually attacked Dahia in South Beirut, Iran had said that was red line, right? So they immediately launched missiles at Israel. And this was the first time since the April ceasefire that Iran directly attacked Israel. And Israel responded with a flurry of rockets into Iran. Both of them struck each other's petrochemical targets, apparently military bases. Nobody ever really tells us exactly what kind of damage they sustained, so we don't know how much damage there was. But definitely the strikes that took place were significant and much larger than what we have seen in the skirmishes, I would use the word to try and scale it down from war, that we saw Iran doing in the Strait of Hormuz, trying to stop ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz without permission. And then when the U.S. would retaliate on Iranian installations, Iran responded by attacking installations in Bahrain and Kuwait. So now let's take a look at where we stand right now. And President Trump first told the Financial Times, I believe, that he calls the shots. And he said that he was going to tell Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop. Well, that didn't happen. Israel went ahead and still fired rockets. And then he called on Israel and Iran to both stop. And eventually, by Monday afternoon, it was the Revolutionary Guard that first said, we are going to stop, but we reserve the right to start again if Israel continues battering Beirut. And Israel, in the last hour or so before we started recording this, said that yes, okay, they will also stop attacking Iran if Hezbollah stops attacking Israel. So everybody is hedging their bets, but for now, the immediate shooting war has come to a halt. And so President Donald Trump said on Truth Social, both sides, Israel and Iran, are looking to do an immediate ceasefire. Final negotiations on peace are proceeding, subject to ignorance or stupidity getting in the way. The blockade will remain in place and in full force and effect until a final deal is reached. Things should move quickly. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Trump, we have been paying attention to all your Truth Social posts, and you have been telling us that peace is around the corner every alternate day. So this time, is it for real? I hope so. I hope that it's not going to be another market scam or optimism on your part. In all honesty, the U.S. and Iran were so close to a peace deal last week. So close till the Iran hawks in the U.S. administration got into action, like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and everybody else howling and screaming about why is America conceding. What choices do you have? Let's be realistic. This war has to end. This war has to end, and the global economy is right now on the edge. And it's not something that you can delay any much further, waiting the other side out, because waiting the other side out would mean that you continue to use your strategic reserves of oil, and that is dipping precariously low for the entire world. Now, the general optimism is we can wait Iran out because Iran is losing money because they're not being able to export oil. Yes, they are losing money, but that's just through the Strait of Hormuz. They're being able to move LNG and oil through its train network, which is something I guess that people hadn't realized would happen so quickly. President Trump seems to be convinced that Iran is desperate for a deal, absolutely desperate for a deal. I think not, because it's not just the language that we're hearing from Iran, it's Iran's quiet patience. They don't hurl around statements, they don't scream, yell, and shout, they don't launch attacks unless they are attacked first. This is really, really important because we follow, right? We look at it and we say, okay, explosions heard in Bandar Abbas, which is Iran, or explosions heard over the Strait of Hormuz. And then we know pretty much what started it, and it usually starts because some ship was trying to creep past the US blockade or Iran's restriction on certain ships that are passing from that region. So nothing major has really changed. The proposal that Iran sent forward, which America found unacceptable, and President Trump thought it appropriate to send it back with his own additions or responses to it, we don't always know what those changes are that President Trump puts through. Iran has been reasonably consistent in their demands. I would say even obdurate in their demands, and they haven't moved back from those. Now, interestingly, Pakistan's interior minister, who has been very much part of the shuttle diplomacy between the United States and Iran, headed off for Tehran again over the weekend. And on Sunday afternoon, he met with Foreign Minister Dr. Abbas Arachi. And this was something really interesting because this is the first time that we saw Mohsen Naqvi hand over a large brown manila envelope to Dr. Arachi. And Dr. Arachi receives it from him, and there's sort of a white label on it. And he reads that, and then they shake hands. And then when you see close-ups of that manila envelope, you can see that there are red stamps of some kind on the flap of the envelope. So it was some kind of sealed document. It wasn't a stack of papers. It looked like a very thin piece of paper, or two papers, sheets of paper maybe, that were in that envelope. Now, I really want to know what was in that, and I'm sure the whole world wants to know what was in that. But this was not an electronic communication. This was a physical document that Mohsen Naqvi presented openly in front of TV cameras to the foreign minister of Iran. And after that, there is this push from the United States on the media front to say that a deal is around the corner. Now, President Trump has lost a lot of credibility on this. He's been saying a deal is around the corner for a while now. I even wondered that the timing of Israel attacking Beirut was literally hours after this document was handed over to Dr. Arachi. So is there something significant that is in that document? Because we know that Israel gets very, 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 very unhappy when it looks like peace is going to break out. If you recall, on the first day, the very first day of the famous Islamabad talks that brought the United States and Iran into the same room for the first time in years, on that very potentially auspicious day, Israel deemed it appropriate to fire more than 100 missiles within minutes, 10 minutes, into Beirut. It was massive destruction. And I will give Iran credit for staying the course. They had arrived for the talks and they stayed, even though at that time they had said from day one that Lebanon is part of the ceasefire, a ceasefire on all fronts. And in fact, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also wrote in his first tweet on the matter, he mentioned that Lebanon was very much a part of the ceasefire. So it's been a difficult 3 months for everybody. For Iran, certainly, and for Lebanon, certainly. It has been equally difficult, I would say, for the sailors who are trapped on the 1600 ships that are stranded in the Strait of Hormuz for 3 months. And it's not something that should be continuing. And as the weather is heating up, we are now in the month of June, the environment in this part of the world is excruciatingly hot. And humidity and sand and all those other elements are now going to play against the United States if they decide that they're going to do any kind of ground operation. This is not Operation Desert Storm. This is at the height of summer, and it's going to be incredibly difficult. And very soon, the Shamal season, which is the sandstorms of the Gulf countries, is going to be starting pretty soon as well. And trust me, you can't see a foot in front of you when those Shamals start. Well, anyway, we're going to leave it there on this optimistic note that maybe this time, maybe just a little bit, President Trump actually got it right. We'll wait and see. Bye for now. And my team keeps telling me that I forget to tell you to please subscribe, like, share if you like these videos. And I swear, I will not do this again, but they'll make me. Bye.